This is true that in Muslim societies people are tired about all these fanatic organizations, but simultaneously people are also have so many reservations about and complaints about the attitude of the Western Christian world, how they behave, the Muslim societies and countries.
Unfortunately, many Muslims are not willing to assume responsibility for their own actions. We use the West as a scapegoat to run away from our own mistakes. I believe that we are the solution, and we can be the beginning of a solution in terms of how others see Islam and how others change their perception and their views of Islam. Before I criticize America or Zionism or the State of Israel or the West, let me criticize myself. Self-evaluation, self-criticism is the best of Muslims and Islam. Ali Shariati, the very well-known scholar, wrote a book called The Sociology of Islam. And in his introduction, he talks about that the problem of the Muslim world is that Muslims have failed to diagnose their own diseases and therefore have not given the right medicine for the right problem. Before we criticize the West, let's criticize ourselves. Muslims dehumanize their women. Muslims deprived women from their rights. No role of good education, poverty in Muslim lands, dictatorships, political corruption, economic corruption, financial corruption, social corruption, civil wars, no human rights. What does this have to do with the West? Yes, I think the West has done mistakes. And I also blame the United States for some of the mistakes that happened in the Muslim world. But we also are partners in the making of the problem. And I believe we are the solution to move forward.
I would like to talk in detail about the Muslim societies, why there are so many things which you have just mentioned. But I was talking about the Middle East. And one important point I would like to ask, you see the mediator role of Christianity to bringing peace between Jews and Muslims. I think what I see, this whole conflict is being created by the Christian imperialist powers. They use Jews. When the partition plan was announced by the United Nations, or before that, when
you're talking about Balfour or Sykes-Picot in 1917. For me, regardless of what happened in the past, I'm trying to be positive. I'm trying to find a solution rather than talk about the problem. And what I am saying is that if this is seen, if the Arab-Israeli conflict is seen as a conflict between Jews and Muslims, Christians can be the mediators between Jews and Muslims. Number two, I believe that the Catholic Church, with its teachings on love and compassion, can be mobilized. I believe the Mormon Church and its teachings on love and on compassion, on family values. The Quakers, the very well-known church, the Quakers, can also be a part of the solution. Quakers teach nonviolence, a solution to conflicts. So we need to mobilize Catholics, Mormons, Quakers. We need to mobilize many Protestant communities in America that are interested in becoming a part of the solution. And the last thing is that many people in the West understand the conflict between Jews and Muslims. I also tell American Christians that the Christians are also a part of the conflict, because Palestinians are also Christians. And therefore they have to become a part of the solution to help their own brothers and sisters who happen to be Palestinians.
How do you see the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, Hamas, such organizations in the Muslim world? Why Muslim societies are creating such kind of organizations?
There are extremist groups in many societies and have existed in many societies. And some of it could be socio-political, it could be economic, it could be despair and poverty, it could be ignorance, it could be anything. For me, the existence of these groups is a phenomenon that has to be fought, regardless of the reason. The dictatorships in many Muslim countries gave birth to those groups.
But the dictatorships are patronized and sponsored by the Western powers.
Well, there is some kind of relationship between both, but I believe within the Muslim world and the Arab world, there is the receptivity to dictatorship. Otherwise, we would not have allowed them to exist. It's easy to blame the West, and I think that the West is a partner in the problem, but Muslims are also a part of the solution, can say no to the West and can say no to these groups. Within the Muslim world, there have these exclusivist voices, exclusivist interpretations of Islam that have to be rejected. Why do we always have to blame the West? Why do we always have to blame the other? Why don't we assume responsibility and our partnership in creating it? What does the West have to do with the civil war in Somalia? Nothing. It is an internal issue between Muslims and Muslims. What does the West have to do with the trafficking of Muslim women to slavery and to sex and labor every day? Come on, I mean, let's be honest about ourselves. Muslims have to fix what is within themselves.
We will talk about the problems of the Muslim societies and what are the responsibilities of the Muslim leadership, what to do. I will talk in detail, but after one break. नाज़रीन, इमाम याह्या हिंदी साहब सां असांजी गुफ्तगू हलंदड़ आहे। असां ॻाल्हि ॿोल कंदासूं वक़फ़े ते मोटण खां पोइ त मुस्लिम मुआशरनि जे अंदरि जेका ही सूरत हाल आहे, जेका समाजी पसमानदगी आहे, जेका तालीम जी पसमानदगी आहे ऐं जेका टॉलरेंस जी लेवल जेका मुस्लिम मुआशरनि में जेका घटि थी आहे ऐं जेका मुस्लिम मुआशरनि जे अंदरि जेका वेढ़ाक क़िस्म जूं क़ुवतूं जेके आहिनि उहा पंहिंजा रूट्स पकड़नि पियूं, उनजा कहिड़ा सबब आहिनि उनजा ऐं उनखे सॉल्व करण लाइ, उनखे हल करण लाइ, उन मां निजात वठण लाइ मुस्लिम मुआशरनि जी लीडरशिप खे कहिड़ा पंहिंजो स्टेप्स खणणु घुरिजनि, उनजो कहिड़ो रोल आहे, उन ते तफ़सील सां ॻाल्हि ॿोल कंदासूं। पर वक़फ़े खां पोइ असां सां गॾु रहिजो।